It all began on a sweltering July morning in 1987 in Scottsdale, Arizona. The Collins family, seemingly ordinary and well-liked, went about their daily routines just like any other suburban household. Mark Collins, a 42-year-old engineer, kissed his wife, Lisa, goodbye as he left for work, while Lisa prepared breakfast for their children, Emily and Jacob. Emily, a bright and curious 10-year-old, was practicing her violin in the living room, while 7-year-old Jacob chased their golden retriever around the backyard. Neighbors watched them go about their morning, unaware that this day would mark the start of a mystery that would baffle authorities for decades. By mid-morning, the Collins family had vanished without a trace. Concern began to ripple through the neighborhood when neighbors noticed that the family's usual morning routines were left incomplete. The school bus came and went, but Emily and Jacob were never seen. Mark never showed up at his office, and Lisa's car remained parked in the driveway. The front door, which was usually locked when the family left, stood slightly ajar, as if inviting the unknown inside. Friends and relatives tried calling the house, only to find the phone lines eerily dead. When the police arrived, they were greeted by a scene frozen in time. Breakfast plates were still stacked in the kitchen sink, cereal remained half-eaten, and the TV flickered with a paused news broadcast. It was as if the family had disappeared mid-action, leaving behind everything that made the house feel alive. Even more bizarre, the dog was nowhere to be found. No signs of a struggle, no forced entry, and no footprints beyond the property lines. Nothing that would indicate where the family had gone. It was a perfect, terrifying vanishing that defied all logic. Rumors and theories began circulating almost immediately. Some neighbors whispered about a planned kidnapping, though no ransom demands were ever made. Others suggested a sudden, unexplained family dispute or a secret disappearance. But those who knew the Collins family insisted nothing like that would ever happen. The local community was gripped with fear, staring at the empty driveway and the silent house, unsure whether the family had left willingly or if something far darker had occurred. Even seasoned detectives admitted that the case felt like stepping into a storybook horror with no clues to guide them. As days turned into weeks, the disappearance became a local obsession. Flyers were posted, television reports aired, and investigators worked around the clock. Yet nothing emerged. Each lead seemed to fizzle into nothing. Each tip proved worthless. The house, left untouched, grew overgrown with weeds and became a ghostly symbol of the family's sudden absence. People passing by reported a sense of unease, claiming the air around the property felt heavier, almost charged with something unseen. And while the town tried to move on, the mystery of the Collins family continued to cast a long, cold shadow over Scottsdale, an enigma that refused to be solved. From the very first day, the Scottsdale police poured every available resource into finding the Collins family. Investigators combed the neighborhood, interviewing neighbors, friends, and coworkers, trying to piece together the last known moments of Mark, Lisa, Emily, and Jacob. Each question seemed to lead to more questions, and every alibi checked out. There were no sightings of the family leaving town, no unusual financial activity, and no signs of coercion. The deeper the police dug, the more confounding the case became. It was as if the Collins had simply vanished into thin air, leaving no thread to follow. Authorities quickly expanded the search beyond the immediate area. The desert surrounding Scottsdale was scarred, miles of arid land, combed for footprints or discarded belongings. Helicopters swept the skies, while ground teams inspected dry riverbeds, rocky canyons, and even abandoned mines rumored to have once been used by smugglers. Volunteers joined the search, combing every inch of desert terrain, calling out names in the hope of a response. But the vast, unyielding landscape offered nothing. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and still, the desert swallowed its secrets. Investigators also looked into more sinister possibilities. There were rumors of criminal activity in nearby towns and whispers of cults operating in the Arizona desert. Detectives traced leads that took them to fringe groups and individuals with shadowy pasts, but each theory crumbled under scrutiny. No evidence connected the Collins family to any known criminal networks, and no one claimed responsibility for their disappearance. Each time a lead seemed promising, it ended up being a dead end, leaving detectives frustrated and the public growing increasingly uneasy. The media frenzy surrounding the case added another layer of complexity. Newspapers ran front-page stories speculating about kidnappings, secret elopements, and even supernatural occurrences. Television stations aired nightly segments asking viewers to come forward with any information, no matter how small. Tips poured in from across the country, some credible, many wild or impossible. A few people claimed to have seen the family in distant states or even across the border, but nothing could be verified. The investigation became a frustrating maze, with each avenue of inquiry dissolving into confusion and speculation. Despite decades of effort, the case remained a chilling mystery. Senior detectives who had worked similar missing person cases admitted they had never encountered anything like it. The Collins family's home stood silent and empty, a haunting monument to a story that had no ending. As time passed, the trail grew colder, witnesses' memories faded, and the town's collective anxiety morphed into legend. Yet even with every door closed and every lead exhausted, there lingered a stubborn hope that somewhere, somehow, the truth about what happened to the Collins family might still be uncovered. After the Collins family disappeared, the house didn't just stand empty. It seemed to take on a life of its own. Neighbors began noticing odd occurrences almost immediately. Lights would flicker on and off, even though the power had been shut off temporarily for safety inspections. At night, some claimed they could hear muffled sounds, footsteps on the wooden floors, faint whispers, or the distant ladder of children. At first, people dismissed it as their imagination or the creaking of an old, unoccupied house. But the strange noises persisted, growing more pronounced and unsettling with each passing week. Visitors who dared to enter the house described a chilling atmosphere. Dust hung thick in the air, but it didn't feel stale. It felt alive, almost heavy, like the air itself was charged with some unseen presence. Doors that had been carefully closed were found ajar, and items were sometimes slightly moved from where they were left. Some claimed to see fleeting shadows out of the corner of their eyes, only to find nothing when they turned. Even seasoned paranormal investigators who visited the property reported a watchful feeling, a sensation of being observed by something unseen. The house had become a place where reality seemed to bend, and the more people investigated, the stranger it became. The local community quickly caught wind of the house's eerie reputation. Teenagers began daring each other to sneak onto the property after dark, recording their attempts on camcorders. Many returned pale-faced, muttering about seeing figures in the windows or hearing children calling their names. Some reported that the golden retriever, long missing, could still be heard barking faintly, even though it had been years since anyone had seen it. Every new account only deepened the mystery, and soon, the Collins house became an unspoken landmark in Scottsdale, a place that parents warned their children to avoid. As interest in the house grew, so did the claims of photographic and video evidence. Cameras set up to monitor the property captured strange anomalies, blurred figures moving past windows, lights turning on and off without explanation, and sometimes what appeared to be scribbled messages faintly visible on the walls from outside. Experts analyzed the footage, but no clear explanation could account for these phenomena. Skeptics argued about lens flares or hoaxes, but even the most hardened investigators admitted that some of the images were deeply unsettling, impossible to ignore, and suggested that the house still held secrets related to the family's disappearance. Even decades later, the house remained a magnet for curiosity and fear. Neighbors described an almost oppressive silence surrounding it during the day, broken only by sudden gusts of wind that rattled windows in ways that didn't match the calm desert air. The yard, overgrown and wild, seemed to obscure more than just weeds. It hid entrances, corners, and perhaps even secrets of its own. No one could explain why the house appeared to be frozen in time, or why those who entered felt a palpable, almost malevolent presence. The Collins home had become more than just a location. It was a symbol of the unknown, a place where the past and the present collided in an unnerving way, leaving anyone who dared near it with a lingering sense that the family's story was far from over. 36 years had passed since the Collins family disappeared, and the case had long been considered cold. The house remained untouched, a decaying relic in the Scottsdale neighborhood, shrouded in overgrown weeds and the whispers of locals. Time seemed to have swallowed any hope of finding answers, until a group of amateur drone enthusiasts decided to film the old Collins property for a ghost exploration video. What began as a casual weekend project would soon ignite a renewed interest in the decades-old mystery. The team arrived in the late afternoon, when the sun cast long, golden shadows across the cracked driveway and broken windows. They carefully launched their drone, capturing sweeping aerial footage of the house and the surrounding desert. From above, the property seemed almost ordinary, a lonely structure in the middle of scrubland. But as the drone circled, something caught the eye of the operators. Behind the house, partially obscured by years of sand and desert growth, there appeared to be an unusual shape. It didn't match any normal outbuilding or shed and seemed deliberately hidden, as if someone had gone to great lengths to conceal it from view. Intrigued, the operators focused the camera on the structure, zooming in to capture its details. It was a small, rectangular formation, barely noticeable from the ground, with what appeared to be a rusted hatch or door, partially buried in the desert sand. The walls were weathered but surprisingly intact, and there were faint signs of human construction, lines and edges that suggested it wasn't a natural formation. Even more unnerving, the area around it was strangely free of vegetation, as if someone or something had kept it clear over the years. The drone operators exchanged uneasy glances, realizing that they had stumbled upon something that had gone completely unnoticed by authorities, search teams, and investigators for decades. As the drone hovered closer, the footage began to reveal details that sent shivers down their spines. Through cracks and gaps in the structure, they could make out objects that appeared to be personal belongings boxes, small pieces of furniture, and even children's toys. It was as though a hidden life had continued in secret, tucked away from the world. The operators couldn't explain how it had remained undetected for so long, nor why anyone would go to such lengths to conceal it. The discovery instantly transformed the Collins case from a cold, unsolved disappearance into a fresh, spine-chilling mystery that demanded answers. The drone footage was shared with friends, then quickly circulated online, catching the attention of local media and former investigators. Experts analyzed the images, confirming that the structure was a concealed basement, hidden beneath years of sand and debris. Questions immediately arose. Had the Collins family been trapped here? Had someone else been living there in secret? Or had this place served some darker purpose entirely? What had seemed like a routine ghost hunting video had unexpectedly reopened one of Arizona's most baffling disappearances, proving that even after 36 years, the truth could emerge in the most unexpected ways. As the drone hovered over the partially buried structure behind the Collins house, the camera began to capture details that seemed almost impossible. The hatch or door, once rusted shut, had clearly been constructed to remain hidden from view, deliberately camouflaged with sand and debris. The operators zoomed in, noticing faint impressions on the ground, suggesting someone had recently moved around the entrance. Dust and desert sand had been disturbed in a pattern that indicated human activity, not natural erosion. It was as if the hidden basement had been used long after the Collins family vanished, but by whom and for what purpose remained terrifyingly unclear. The aerial footage revealed glimpses of items inside the hidden structure. Small boxes, worn furniture, and toys scattered across the floor suggested a life had existed there, separate from the outside world. The operators could even make out faint outlines of what appeared to be clothing or blankets, left in haphazard piles. Each frame sent shivers down their spines, as it became increasingly difficult to imagine that this secret had been preserved for 36 years without anyone noticing. Questions raced through their minds. Had the Collins family been trapped here? Or had someone else taken residence after they disappeared? Closer examination of the walls revealed something far more disturbing. Faded markings were visible, scratched into the wood and plaster. Some appeared to be letters or symbols, while others seemed abstract, almost ritualistic in nature. Experts later suggested that the designs didn't match any standard alphabet and might have been part of some cryptic system, a message left by someone or something. Even the drone operators, skeptical by nature, admitted they felt a growing unease. The footage showed a space that wasn't just hidden. It was deliberately isolated, almost sacred in the way it was concealed, as though whoever built it wanted to ensure it remained untouched for decades. The operators noticed something else: shadowy forms or shapes that seemed to move just out of frame, or at least shifted as the drone's camera focused on different angles. At first, they assumed it was a trick of light or the drone's motion stirring dust and debris. But as the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the desert, the shapes became more defined. They seemed almost human, or at least humanoid, standing or crouching inside the structure. The operators tried to capture it, but the drone's camera could only partially reveal what was happening, leaving more questions than answers. The footage became an unnerving puzzle that hinted at life, or something resembling it, within the hidden basement. By the time the drone returned to its landing point, the operators were visibly shaken. They had captured something that no search party, police investigation, or forensic team had ever discovered: a fully hidden, lived in space, containing personal effects, cryptic markings, and unexplained movements. The discovery changed everything about the Collins disappearance, proving that the mystery was far from over. What had begun as a decades-old cold case had suddenly reopened in the most unexpected way, raising chilling questions about what had happened to the Collins family, who or what had been in that hidden space, and whether anyone could safely uncover the truth. The moment the drone footage went public, the Scottsdale police faced immense pressure to act. For decades, the Collins disappearance had been a cold case, quietly filed away and rarely discussed outside old news clippings. But now, with clear evidence of a hidden structure behind the family's long-abandoned home, authorities had no choice but to reopen the investigation. Detectives returned to the property, this time armed with modern forensic equipment, infrared cameras, and professional excavation tools. The air around the house seemed heavier than ever, as if the property itself anticipated the intrusion. When the excavation began, the true scale of the hidden basement became apparent. What had seemed like a small, shallow structure from the drone was far deeper and more complex than anyone had imagined. Its walls were thick, reinforced with concrete and wood, and the entrance was cleverly concealed beneath layers of sand and rubble. Forensic teams carefully removed debris, documenting every step, aware that even a single misstep could destroy evidence that had survived more than 3 decades. Each level they uncovered revealed signs of habitation, bedding, tattered blankets, and remnants of food containers that suggested someone had lived or been kept there for extended periods. Inside the basement, investigators encountered something even more unsettling. The walls were covered with a series of carved messages and symbols, some in English, others in cryptic, unidentifiable forms. Messages appeared to be warnings, pleas, or records of time passing, as if someone had been trying to communicate with the outside world. Detectives, historians, and linguists were brought in to analyze the inscriptions, but their meanings remained largely indecipherable. The combination of personal belongings and cryptic writing painted a picture of a space that was more than just a hideout. It was a secret world, carefully maintained and filled with hints of human presence and fear. Forensic evidence suggested that the basement had been used intermittently over the years. Dust patterns, small footprints, and even fragments of modern items indicated that someone had entered the space long after the Collins family vanished. This raised terrifying questions. Had someone else discovered the basement and taken up residence? Or had the family somehow survived here in secret, trapped and unseen for decades? Detectives combed through every detail, realizing that what they were dealing with was not just a case of disappearance, but a hidden story layered with decades of mystery, survival, or possibly even malevolence. As the investigation unfolded, the community watched in a mixture of fascination and horror. The Collins house, once a silent reminder of a decades-old tragedy, had become the center of a real-life mystery thriller. Media crews camped outside, neighbors whispered theories, and online forums buzzed with speculation. Yet, for the detectives inside the basement, the most chilling part was that every discovery seemed to answer one question while raising 10 more. The hidden space was alive with the history of the Collins family, or someone connected to them, and every object, every mark, every shadow suggested that the ultimate truth had not yet revealed itself. As the investigators sifted through the hidden basement, their findings grew more disturbing with every step. Among the scattered belongings, they discovered two old camcorders, coated in decades of dust, but still surprisingly intact. Curious and cautious, forensic technicians carefully powered them on, unsure what they might reveal. When the screens flickered to life, the footage was grainy, but unmistakably familiar. It was the Collins family, alive, moving through the basement, yet tense, fearful, and seemingly aware that someone, or something, was just outside the camera's view. A shiver ran through the room as the team realized they were seeing moments frozen in time, never intended to be discovered. The tapes revealed the family in small, unsettling details. Lisa was comforting Emily, whispering reassurances as Jacob clutched his favorite toy. Mark checked the walls and corners of the basement, as if guarding against an invisible intruder. Shadows flickered across the walls, and in some frames, there were faint, unidentifiable movements beyond the doorway or just out of frame. The family's expressions were strained, and their eyes darted nervously, conveying a fear that was palpable even through the old footage. It was a haunting reminder that the Collins had been trapped in this hidden world, fully aware of the dangers lurking nearby. As the investigators continued to watch, the tapes grew increasingly unsettling. The family appeared to leave notes carved into the walls, tally marks counting days, and whispered messages meant for anyone who might find them. Sometimes, strange symbols appeared in the background, etched into the wood or scratched into the floor. No one could explain their origin or meaning. The camcorders captured sounds, soft knocks, creaking floorboards, and faint voices that couldn't be attributed to anyone in the room. Each frame heightened the tension, leaving investigators on edge and struggling to comprehend how such a secret world had existed for decades. Right under everyone's noses, the most chilling moments came in the final tapes. The family seemed increasingly desperate, glancing toward corners of the basement that the camera couldn't fully capture. Shadows loomed, faint and indistinct, but unmistakably menacing. The whispers grew louder, and at one point, a muffled scream echoes, cutting off abruptly as if someone or something had silenced it. The footage ended suddenly, leaving the screen black. Even seasoned detectives admitted that the images and sounds were among the most unsettling they had ever encountered. What had started as a hidden basement transformed into a nightmarish stage of fear, raising horrifying questions about the family's final days. The discovery sent shockwaves through law enforcement and the local community. The camcorder footage was shared cautiously, enough to confirm the basement's horrifying significance without fully revealing the terror it contained. Experts, investigators, and curious citizens alike were gripped by the unnerving reality. The Collins family had been alive in the basement, documenting their ordeal, yet somehow remained unseen and unheard by the world. The tapes proved that the family's disappearance was far from ordinary, and that the hidden basement held a secret more terrifying than anyone could have imagined, a secret that demanded answers but offered none. Despite decades of searching, the Collins family's fate remains a haunting mystery. The hidden basement revealed fragments of their lives, personal belongings, cryptic messages, and the chilling camcorder footage, but it answered more questions than it solved. Who or what was responsible for hiding them away? Had the family survived in secret for months, years, or even decades? And if they didn't, what became of them in the end? the drone footage, the excavation, and the tapes all point to a truth that is as unsettling as it is incomprehensible. There are secrets buried deep in the most ordinary places, and sometimes even the most familiar homes can hide horrors we can scarcely imagine. The Collins house, silent and abandoned once more, continues to watch, waiting, as if the desert itself is guarding the answers. And while investigators, experts, and amateur explorers may try to piece together the final chapter, one thing is clear: the story of the Collins family is far from over. Their disappearance, the hidden basement, and the terrifying evidence captured on tape serve as a stark reminder that some mysteries are never meant to be fully solved. For those who dare to look, the Collins house stands as a chilling monument, a place frozen in time, where shadows linger, whispers echo, and the truth waits silently just beyond.
If you liked this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Most importantly, subscribe and hit the bell icon so the next secret finds you first.